The craziest thing though, I think, was that like for finals, I was like, screw this. Like London is like rainy still. It's like low key kind of cold. I am not doing this. I like need to go get away for finals. Like I'm in Europe. I can go anywhere I want and just do my finals and study for them. So I booked a trip to Ibiza. Hey, what's up everybody? Happy Cyber Monday! Except I'm pretty sure that when I upload this video, it'll be Tuesday. So happy belated Cyber Monday. So this time of the year, I normally, not like this year was any different, but I normally go out and I engage in Black Friday and Cyber Monday festivities. I don't wake up at like 3 a.m. in the morning to like stampede Walmart. Maybe you don't think it's crazy, I do. I don't do that. I wake up like a normal person and I go to the mall, or I go to the store, or I go online and shop like a normal person. I just happen to take advantage of the deal, and unfortunately a lot of the brands that I like aren't even on sale, so I kind of just use Black Friday and Cyber Monday as excuses. That being said, I wanted to talk more about my manic episodes, I guess you could say, or experiences. Again, you know, I never really got a concrete answer from my doctors whether or not, you know, what defines an episode. Like I know like within like the DSM and how it's definitionally defined, I know what an episode is, but in terms of my doctors, I never really understood if this was, you know, months, or like, you know, if I had many episodes that sort of just came up together. Regardless, I think my first episode was when I was in London actually studying abroad. So this was my sophomore year of college. I might have had other episodes before this, but this is the only time in terms of that I personally can identify my behavior as being manic. I essentially, over the course of 4 months when I was in London, from January to like May 1st, managed to spend 12 grand on like clubs, vacations, trips. I guess that's vacations. Regardless, I spent a lot of money. 12,000 for 4 months in London might not sound unreasonable, but I was studying abroad, which means that, you know, my housing was taken care of. I didn't really have to worry about that. My education was already, like my tuition, all of that was already paid for. Trips were like sort of built in, like trips around London were sort of built in. Only thing I had to pay for was food and like living expenses. So that was $12,000 just like money in my pocket. Originally, I didn't even have $12,000. I went over my budget. I had, I think, $8,000 or $9,000 to spend throughout the semester, you know, on trips and traveling, and I managed to make that $12,000 because I had credit cards and I kind of went overboard. Not really comfortable in terms of talking about how I got into that phase, because quite not there yet in terms of opening up about that part of my life. Sorry. But I will say that I was feeling extremely good. It was my first time, and that's an understatement. It was my first time in London, first time in Europe at all. The only time before that I had been outside the country was to Canada for my 3rd grade birthday, which is amazing. I love Canada, but this was my first time in Europe, and I really felt as though like everything was great. Everything was like, buying things was sort of like an affirmation that everything was great. I think the first week we were there, my friends and I went out like every single night, and I no jokingly spent at least $2 grand within that first week, and slowed down considerably because I couldn't live like that. But you know, just the fact that like the money just was going and I had no idea where it was going. It just felt like, you know, swipe of a card, boom, it's gone. And I felt for some reason in my head that I was tracking it all and thinking like, you know, oh, if I spend $2 grand this week, you know, it's fine. I'll just lay low the next 2 weeks and sort of, you know, beg it back up, which of course never happened. And even more so, like I was being unrealistic because I still had to pay for like food, and what about like unexpected things that would happen, and just spending, you know, uncontrollably and not really like noting where your money is going, and just thinking like, all right, you know, you spend like 100 and something here, or 200 something here, this is like $50, and then like pending, it all just like becomes a snowball, and you end up with a whole bunch of debt. More specifically, though, some of the craziest things I spent money on while I was abroad was, again, I guess that like $1,000, $2,000 like first week, 2 week experience in London where we just like spent money on like clubs and just like drinks and like literally were balling out like we were like Kim Kardashian or something, as my friend Brandy would say. Beyond that, I think there was one time, there's small things. So these small things add up into larger things, if that makes sense. So I would Uber Eats like orange juice. Now that doesn't sound like a very big expense, but when you Uber Eats orange juice like for 2 straight weeks, and that orange juice, which normally is maybe 2 pence, not 2 pence, that's way too cheap. A pound, there we go, a pound or 2 pounds. That orange juice ends up becoming like 8 pounds because you're paying for a delivery fee plus a tip, because I was feeling generous and happy, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally just tip you. You brought me this orange juice. You probably like looked at the order and was like, bruh, really? Especially because it's right down the street. It's like things like that, so that you end up buying orange juice from Uber Eats for 2 weeks in advance, just not really thinking about it, and you end up having spent $100 just on orange juice. So imagine how those things become bigger and bigger when you're not just spending it on orange juice. I don't remember where this story was going. But beyond orange juice, I spent a lot of money on alcohol. Not in the sense that I was drinking like for like problems to go away. I was probably drinking heavily because I was manic, and that fueled like the energy. I don't really know exactly how that works, but I know that those two things together like intensify. Alcohol intensifies manicness or manic episodes. So I found myself drinking a lot and buying a lot. Like I can't even think about how much money I've spent on wine, simply because there was a wine store right next to the Tube line where I got off at, and I would just like the orange juice every single day I got off the Tube. Oh, need a bottle of wine. Need a bottle of wine. And I don't really know why I was going through a bottle of wine literally like every day or like every other day for like a month, but I was. I remember like for some reason I thought it would be a good idea to book like travel to like back-to-back countries like within the month of like April, which is also like during our finals, and like it's study abroad, but at the same time you still have to do work. So I was sort of just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to like Oslo, and then I'm gonna go to Brussels the next weekend, and then I'm gonna like go to Barcelona like for this weekend. And like I was traveling like so much. I went to I think 17 different cities or something crazy like that, and it was like an amazing experience. But the reason why I think Europe was sort of tainted for me in some ways was because like I was traveling way too much and extenuating. Like I was like thinking I was like some like jet setter or something. I don't know. It was just like, you know, I felt the need to like travel, so I kept on booking flights and booking flights. So that one period in April when I like completely booked all my weekends up, I ended up not even going on a trip to Brussels. I never went to Brussels. No, not Brussels. Budapest. Yes, Budapest. Because I didn't even end up going because I was like, I am tired as crap. I have like work to do. One, like regardless if this is all paid for, I have to spend money when I'm there, and like I'm running out of money / not running out of money. I've already gone over my limit, and I'm like owing like more money like to my dad because I've like borrowed money from him, and like a whole bunch of other stuff that I realized like, you know, this is getting a little bit out of hand. So with that, I ended up skipping like an entire trip, missing like the flight, skipping out on the hotel, like all of that, having to pay my friend who I was going with like back that money. So like I guess it was cost effective in the end, but it was like sort of these decisions that like later on realized that like blah. Since then, I have definitely engaged in other manic, you know, spurts, but I thought in the spirit of Cyber Monday, talking about my unhealthy shopping addiction, or like I don't know if it's classified as an addiction. The strange thing is that I just thought that, you know, my mom loves to shop. I grew up shopping with her, and just sort of like that become like a therapy, like whatever, you know. So I thought that was sort of my personality, and maybe parts of it is, maybe parts of it are, and like another part is just being manic and being impulsive, because there's a difference between like liking to go shopping and then like realizing that like, oh, you only have $50 in your account and you kind of need that to pay your electricity bill, but you think it's okay to buy like a jacket or something like that. I think that's the differentiating line, but it sort of makes it hard in terms of like not knowing which one and not being able to recognize it. Like I was manic this weekend and I told myself not to go shopping, and I did. The craziest thing though, I think, was that like for finals I was like, screw this, like London is like rainy still. It's like low-key kind of cold. I am not doing this. I like need to go get away for finals. Like I'm in Europe. I can go anywhere I want and just do my finals and study for them. So I booked a trip to Ibiza. Ibiza, I decided to get like a big ass suite in like the Hard Rock Cafe. I actually stayed at 2 different hotels because I wanted to experience 2 different suites. So I stayed at the Hard Rock Cafe, the Hard Rock Hotel, had an amazing suite. And when I say you guys, like, while these were all like very manic, very bad decisions, it was an amazing time. Like I had the suite to myself. I stayed at this other hotel called the Grand Palladium, I think it was called. They had an amazing spa. There was room service. And the worst part, but the best part of it is that both hotels had these little wristbands where your credit card was like in the chip. So all you had to do was like swipe your hand, 1, to get into your room, and 2, to like pay for everything. So I ended up like spending like a couple €100 on drinks because like, not even asking, I would just go scan everything around. So I think that was probably like the pivotal moment, the height of like my manicness, my manic phase, my manic episodes, whatever you want to call it in Europe. Another strange part about it though was that I went there by myself and I had an amazing time by myself. It was like spending money, not like, I don't know, I didn't think of it at the time of spending money, but like filling my like life or my like time in Ibiza with experiences, like going to clubs and like buying drinks, and like I bought a table for like these random people. I did not like for them, but like I met up with these random people, bought a table, and like hung out with these random people. I had no idea who were from I believe Germany. They were from some country in Europe. I know that's not very descriptive, but you know, like I felt like me doing these things was like keeping me company in a sense. It was making me feel something. It made me feel whole. It made me feel happy. It like matched my happiness because I was already happy and I was already super elevated and I was already feeling like I was the #1 person in the world. Literally, like it's a feeling that like it's being high on life, like the literal epitome of being high, like the saying being high on life, that's what it is. I was high on life, and spending like balling out in Ibiza for my finals was sort of an extension of that, or sort of like helped that go along. I can't think of the words. It sort of intensified that, and it just became something where I thought at the time I was just like, you know, having fun, but you know, I ended up having to pay that back, and I'm still trying to pay that back. I actually like am paying the credit card bill off still, which sucks. And like not realizing that, hey, maybe you should just do your finals like a normal person, do something nice in London, not go to Ibiza and spend a crap ton of money. And like I didn't even do my finals. That's like the crazy thing. Like no finals were done in Ibiza, but that was the excuse. But beyond like things that happen in London, like it doesn't just manifest in like money and spending habits. Like I started a business because I was manic, which was great and fun and awesome, and I learned so much. It's probably would not be where I am today without it. But it was also a lot of work considering that I was a junior in college, and I was managing like clients while also trying to go to my classes. And originally I could handle it because I wasn't sleeping, but then my body was like, screw you, and it all just came tumbling down. So yeah, I have 1,000 more stories, but I felt like, you know, Europe was a good place to start. One more thing. Now that I'm actually editing the video, I realized I didn't really, I feel like, extrapolate this further. It's not that I'm trying to glorify overspending or, you know, unresponsible shopping, because, like, I personally have gotten into trouble with that. Like I talked about, like, having credit card debt is not fun. Having to, like, ask your parents to, like, pay for your car note that you said you were going to pay for, and your insurance, and like all these other bills that like aren't theirs, plus on top of having to pay your education, is not fun. having like all these things like are not fun. And like while like I can talk about the great times that like I've had by blowing like money in like these manic episodes, at the end of the day, like they are something that like I am working on. And a lot of people who are dealing with bipolar disorder are also working on, because like it won't necessarily always look like that for everybody. Like if you end up doing what I did, and sometimes people don't have parents to fall back on, and you know, you end up losing like your job or like your house or like drastic things like that, and that's why it becomes like so dangerous. Like people who are married will end up spending like their partner's life savings, and that's not good.